First, I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about a time you were with a lover. Things were heating up. The energy was there. The tension was building. You could feel the moment getting closer, closer to something deeper. And then suddenly, they froze, hit the brakes, shut the door, pulled the emergency cord like the train was about to derail. And you're left sitting there thinking, what the hell just happened? Just a minute ago, they were laughing, flirting, maybe even talking a big game about being adventurous. Maybe you were talking about a threesome. Maybe a little kink. Maybe just exploring something new together. And then, boom, walls up, energy gone, conversation dead. And sometimes it isn't even about sex. Sometimes the real wall is emotional. I once had a guy I was with, confident guy, successful, comfortable in his body, but emotionally locked up tighter than a bank vault. At one point, I looked at him and said something simple. I said, "Fuck me from your heart." Not from ego, not from performance, not from whatever porn script was running in his head, from his heart. And you know what happened? He couldn't do it. He literally pulled back. You could see it in his face, like I had just asked him to step off a cliff. Because the body was there, but the part of him that actually felt something, that part ran for cover. He got shy, guarded, uncomfortable. Because for many people, the scariest thing in the world isn't sex. It's letting someone see their heart while they're having it. And here's the part most people misunderstand. When someone freezes like that, most people assume they aren't interested. But that's usually wrong. The real issue is much simpler. They don't have permission. Permission to be curious. Permission to be sexual. Permission to explore things that don't fit the nice, polite box society told them to stay inside. Because here's the truth nobody talks about. Most adults are walking around with a 16-year-old's level of sexual permission inside their head. They've got an adult body, but an internal voice asking, "Is this wrong? Am I allowed to want this? What will they think of me?" So they freeze, not because they don't want it, but because somewhere deep in their wiring, they were taught they shouldn't. And this is where something fascinating begins to happen. When you start studying human sexuality and communication closely, you discover something powerful. Language plays a huge role in whether someone feels safe enough to open up. Not aggressive language, not pressure, but the kind of language that helps someone feel understood, accepted, curious. When people hear language that makes them feel safe, their nervous system relaxes. their curiosity comes back. Their desire becomes easier to express. Inside certain sentences, the mind naturally hears invitations like, notice what you feel, allow curiosity, become comfortable exploring. These subtle patterns are called embedded commands, and once you learn to recognize them, you start hearing them everywhere. In storytelling, in therapy, in deep conversations between lovers. Because the subconscious mind responds strongly when language invites someone to feel safe, curious, and open. And that's exactly what I'm going to teach this Wednesday night. After more than 20 years studying hypnosis, experiential psychology, and sexual communication, I've seen something again and again. When people learn how to structure language in ways that create permission instead of pressure, their conversations about intimacy become dramatically easier. Partners open up. Desires become easier to talk about. And intimacy becomes curiosity instead of anxiety. So this Wednesday night, I'm hosting a live 2-hour training called Breaking Sexual Inhibition, Conversational Hypnosis, and the Language of Permission. During the class, you'll learn how sexual inhibition actually forms in the mind, how language can reduce shame and hesitation, how embedded commands invite curiosity and openness, and how to create conversations that make intimacy feel safe to explore. And in the second half of the training, we'll even practice these patterns together. Because once you start understanding how these language patterns work, you begin to notice something fascinating. People stop shutting down. They start leaning into curiosity. And the conversations that once hit a brick wall start moving somewhere much deeper. The class is live this Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's 2 hours, and tuition is just $29.95. If you feel curious about this, you can reserve your seat now and begin discovering what happens when someone finally feels safe enough to explore their sexuality honestly.